Hello,
Oh,
and
hello.
welcome to the Asylum, where we apparently have babies.
We do have babies. I'm your host, Don. With me, as always, is Jeremiah.
And we are
Today,
back much sooner than we thought we would be. We thought there'd be a break of
a
longer
while.
than a few days. But we're discussing Shark Side of the Moon because that is the greatest movie ever to existence. Okay, not ever, but I was excited for it as soon as I saw the poster, and it aired on National Geographic when we were recording this yesterday on the 12th, and on Tubi. And at this moment in time is one of the highest rated Asylum films ever, and actually has higher like user ratings than a lot of blockbusters too, which is saying a lot. But do we agree with that? We'll find out. Shark
Sure.
Side of the Moon.
Shark Side of the Moon. Also, got to introduce the third host today. Everybody say hi to Bea. Bea, say hi to all 3,000 of our subscribers. Or don't. That's fine. You can just
I
stare
have
off.
a nose. This is good. No, that's my mouth. It's going in my mouth.
Bea also watched Shark Side of the Moon with us. And what did you think, Bea? Yeah? Yeah. That checks.
So this being a Tubi Asylum movie, it clearly has a bigger budget than most Asylum films, because Tubi ones include what Titanic 666,
Which was
War of
really
the
good.
War of the Worlds Annihilation, which regardless of quality, the budget was on screen.
And they had
And
next.
yes, and so this one, you can tell right at the very beginning that is definitely filmed in the exact same spot that War of the Worlds Annihilation is, because you see this. It starts off in subtitles, which I laughed because I see one of the first reviews on IMDb says this movie starts off with Russian subtitles. I do not support communism or subtitles. Turned it off. I'm like, really?
I do not
When
support.
it comes to space, Russians are kind of important to the history of space. But regardless, starts off with these Russian scientists complaining about like how there's like this pool with like this laser cage over it, and says, they'll never escape the cage. But then all these like shark dudes, think of street sharks, but skinnier, are all jumping out, and so they're running to this rocket for some reason.
I love the setup, right? Because it's like one guy is monitoring the sharks, or he's feeding them from a bucket. You
Mhm.
just throw it raw meat in, and then the other scientist sneaks up behind him and yells "boo," and he throws the bucket in fear, and that disables the entire laser grid. And they don't notice that it disables their laser grid.
Yep. Um, and then all these sharks with very human butts come out, which is weird. Like someone spent a lot of attention to make skinny human butts on all these sharks. They're running out and they're chasing them. And apparently these scientists are qualified to fly a rocket, and they go to a spaceship.
Training.
And I know technically everyone in NASA is a scientist. That's kind of what they're there for, or an engineer. But they go there, and they're trying to launch this Russian rocket with all these shark dudes coming after them in the same airfield or base that War of the Worlds Annihilation was filmed in. Exact same one, same lighting even. And they get on there. One scientist sacrifices himself, and this thing launches towards the moon. Jump forward, modern day.
The modern day, we've got a group of
American.
astronauts and scientists inside of a very large spacecraft, and they're heading to the moon. And
Heading to the
we
moon to
get
learn to grow food, right? They're trying to grow stuff there.
yeah, they're looking to they're like the precursor to colonizing the moon, essentially, using algae somehow.
And I have to say this. So I'm watching it, and I'm like, that person right there has way too much like lip jobs and facial like plastic surgery to be in NASA. And then that same person a little while later is like, oh, my stomach hurts. Oh, it's not the tacos. And the guy has this weird like scanner thing that looks like a thermometer that somehow detects that she has appendicitis, which clearly, of course, if you're about to launch off into space, they would not have noticed surprise appendicitis or something. Because, when you are going into space, they definitely don't do any medical checkups beforehand. And Yeah, so she has appendicitis, and they replace her with a guy that looks a lot like Prince Charming.
I thought it was
Avengers.
Prince Charming. I was blown away that it was not Prince Charming. I did
But he
find
goes
out
up,
that Prince Charming is in War of the Worlds Annihilation, though.
but like he gets on and does some snarky comments, and then you have really no idea after that why the heck people were annoyed by him. But like,
Yeah.
I'm just kind of annoyed. Like, A, there's no way someone in NASA has that much facial work done, and B, appendicitis doesn't just like sneak up on you all of a sudden. It doesn't like suddenly your appendix bursts. I'm pretty sure before you're in the Navy, before they send you out to sea, I'm pretty sure they check you all physically before they put you on a boat for long periods of time. I can't imagine how much more they do when they send you into space.
Well, I mean, we had a guy's gallbladder explode while we were on deployment.
But
so
like this is in the launch though. Like,
yeah, but that was
they
like,
hadn't left yet.
That was like what, 3 months in that his gallbladder exploded.
Yeah, this was like 20 minutes into the shuttle. And then they go to the moon. Something happens. I blinked, and something happened that knocked them off course by the moon.
So they like went through some sort of magnetic. They had a name for it that sounded scientific and real. Field that like threw off their Beatrice. That threw off their equipment, and so they changed course to unthrow off their equipment, but they over adjusted essentially. Ended up on the dark side of them.
Yeah. They end up on the dark side of the moon. They get off. So they get off onto the moon and then they're walking. Did they look like with their helmets on? It might have just been a design, but did they look like really skinny? Like their heads looked like they were crushed in and skinny from angles. I think it has to be the design.
Yeah, because they try to go like newer looking helmets.
And they go there and they find out that there's sharks on the moon that attack them because of course sharks swim underground in dirt and rocks on the moon and can breathe on the moon. And
they explained that they were bred to be able to survive the harshest conditions. And Akula shows her gills to explain that's how she's able to breathe on the moon. Because apparently gills will be able to suck oxygen out of anything.
But so they get attacked by these sharks, and then they get rescued when a shark steps on. At first I thought a shark stepped on a landmine. I'm like, what the heck just happened? And then like one gets impaled, and then these two Russians appear, and they're wearing like chainmail on their head. I don't know why. I never knew why the entire movie. And one of them is one of the scientists in the very beginning, and the other one's a human-looking girl who has a shark fin because I think he had sex with a shark.
Well, so she apparently is. So the sharks are hybrids. They're human shark hybrids, and so she's like a genetic callback. So she has more human characteristics than shark characteristics, but she still has the gills and the fin. And that's it.
Yeah, but
that's the explanation.
Yeah, basically, he had sex with a shark. There's no other way you suddenly have. There's no other way you suddenly have a child.
Did you see the build of the Queen Shark's bodyguard?
There was lots of boobs there.
Take old biddies. He does explain at some point, this was another Chekhov's gun situation. Bea's head vanished. Another Chekhov's gun situation where they drop like a little oh, here's a thing that's going on that never has any relevance until the very end. Where he says that the sharks started what's the word I'm looking for here? They started being able to give birth without having sex. What's the word for that?
Somehow.
Asexual reproduction. They started randomly, they would asexually reproduce, which he just kind of drops that in there and it doesn't seem like it has any relevance. And then it does at the very end. But yeah, so we meet Akula, who is a redheaded shark lady with a Russian accent, but she speaks flawless English. And he then explains, the scientist dude then explains that he uses algae on the moon to create oxygen. And
And
that's
somehow
how
lava. There's also lava on the moon now, somehow.
somehow.
Eh,
So they then shed their spacesuits, and he gives them his like standby moon algae suit things and more chainmail for their heads. And then
Yes.
yeah, and one of their
Uh,
dudes, a guy named Henry, he gets kidnapped by the sharks. And so while he's kidnapped by the sharks eat his leg off to tell them where their spaceship
and
is.
by eat his leg off, I mean like eats through the leg, not eats the leg. They just like gnaw through it and leave it there.
Um, so he gives up his friends on the promise that they won't hurt the friends, but surprise, they don't keep their promise. And then, yeah, they go
So I will
rescue.
say a couple things about this movie. The CGI isn't great, but it's fine. Like you get used to it pretty quickly. The design of the sharks is kind of weird. Okay, it's very weird. But did you notice, like, whenever there's an action scene, everything's suddenly moving very slow. Like the sharks are like, either the people are moving, like they slowed the people down in like frame rates or something, and the sharks are sped up, or they're just all really slow because it makes like some of the ways the sharks catch them. It's like, oh, the CGI can't catch up to them, so it's just slow the film down.
Well, that's how they decided to show the effects of the moon. At least that's how I figured it, is because they couldn't fake the low gravity and they didn't have
Yeah.
the budget to do special effects. So instead of like having them like floating through the air as they step, they just kind of like move really, really slowly. It's just weird. Like they'd be like
Yeah.
as running and stuff.
And to fight sharks, apparently have like pieces of metal that look like shark fins attached to sticks
Made from some
to impale them.
made from
And there's
moon
a few
so I can pierce their skin.
and there's a few dozen sharks on there, and somehow the one scientist has survived this entire time. Um, and they're also trying to get in there, but the main goal is they want to get back off the moon to leave. But apparently, there's this weird arbitrary thing they have to like get off the slingshot around the moon, and it keeps on changing the time that they need because the guy is bad at math, um, for reasons. And so the sharks want to get to the Earth to take it over. I'm like, do you guys not realize that like you're gonna land and they're just gonna shoot you full of holes?
Oh.
Because like 24 sharks are I don't understand at the beginning. Also, if they break out, if that's a Russian base, there are going to be military people there who are just going to fill those shark dudes with full of holes.
Well, there was. Remember the one blonde, the one extremely pale guy that was standing out in the sun? He looked
Yeah,
kind of
the
like a
one
the one. Yeah, he
that would
tried.
be a lot more than that.
And that one lady that tried to kill it with her high-heeled shoes.
So what can I say about this one? This is the type of
So
asylum movie that does exactly what you think it's going to do.
you didn't mention
Oh,
the greatest scene ever.
oh,
Henry
okay. I mean
Sack.
the whole. We didn't talk about the end at all, which doesn't make any sense.
Well, you got to
So
talk about
they're trying.
sacrifice.
Which part?
Henry's sacrifice, where
Oh
he rocks.
yes. So there's this guy who is trying to sacrifice time to uh help them get away, and he takes like basically a fire extinguisher, sticks it between his legs, and uses it to like launch himself up like a rocket at these shark dudes. And then they own him, and then he comes back from the dead later to kill another one before then they kill him anyway. But like he launches himself with like a fire extinguisher between his legs, and he rides it like you would like Doctor Strangelove riding a nuke. And these sharks just want to get back to Earth, and so they try to take over the main ship, and so then they go to like the Russian ship to take it over, and then I blink. Somehow there's like a shark, the main shark's falling out of the one ship, and the girl's falling off, and then there's lava.
Yeah. So okay.
I
So
don't know about how the lava happened. I know it's there in the background, you see it, but like how?
their plan, right? The sharks' plan is they're going to come back to Earth with all their shark eggs, breed an army of shark human hybrids who have like extra thick skin, all that stuff, and then take over the world. So they're trying to stop that because they got a bunch of eggs and they've started loading the eggs onto the ship and they take over the ship and they're flying off. And so our heroes jump out and Akula stays on and she fights the queen, shoves the queen out of the ship as it's launching, and then jumps out after it. And then the queen lands on her back and gets brain damage. They just were like, oh yeah, she probably now. And they're like, all right, so what do we do now? The ship's leaving. It's got all the eggs. What do we do to stop it? And so they come up with this idea that the Russian scientist is going to fly his spaceship loaded with the algae that gives it energy and crash it into the lava, which will then cause the lava to explode. And then that will somehow hit the flying ship that's already flying away and kill all the sharks. And then they do that, and it succeeds. Strangely,
and then they're back on, and then they land back on Earth, and whatever lands turns into a raft instantly.
Which is not explained at all. So,
but the ending itself is glorious. It's glorious. So there's like 3 of them escape.
It's not explained at all. They're just like, they're on the moon, everything blows up, and then suddenly they're on Earth.
And then they're on Earth. There's 2 astronauts and Shark Girl. Okay, they escape, and then they're on there, and the black guy, one of the astronauts, is like quasi flirting with the Shark Girl, like he's been doing the entire movie. And then she starts going through like labor pain, and it was like, "Well, have you had sexual relations with a shark or anything?" Like, no. Well, you're pregnant. And then like this baby shark dude comes out, and they're like, "Oh, it's so cute." And then he like jumps up and like tries biting the guy's face. And then somehow this girl's like, "I need to protect my babies," and jumps into the water, and there's a whole ton of these shark dudes surrounding this boat. Somehow, like she lands in the water and just goes, and they all come out, and then the last words is, "We're all effed," and then the movie's done.
Yeah, she was about to say the F word, and they cut it so she doesn't swear.
So was she sent to Earth to like have these things? Was she like the secret weapon sent back? Or what the heck was going on? And why is she full of shark babies?
Well, like I said earlier, right? That was the Chekhov's gun that they planted earlier on, where like the scientist just says in passing that they started asexually reproducing randomly. So not always, but sometimes they would asexually reproduce. So like that was the Chekhov's gun. Like, oh, now they're down there, and Akula just randomly asexually reproduces a bunch of sharks.
A ton of sharks at one time.
Yeah, and so she
could also adapt, somehow to being in Earth's atmosphere just fine.
Immediately, but no problem. The gravity, the atmosphere, no effect. She's fine. And then she jumps in the water and she vanishes, and then there's a bunch of little mini sharks, and they're screwed. And that was the glorious end to this movie.
It made me laugh hysterically, though.
It's a good ending.
In all the best ways. That's the type of ending you want in something like this, because it's so off the wall. And I will say this: there is nothing in this movie that is outright terrible. Like where it's going to be like, I can't watch this. The CGI is good enough. The action's good enough. The gore is good enough. The premise is ridiculous. I like this. I saw a review that's like, if you're okay with some Russian shark silliness, you'll love this movie. Like, see, the acting was actually solid. Like solid as in like these are professional actors, and none of them was giving in the performance like any of those random 80s or 60s singers they have in these other movies.
Yeah, Mega Shark or Mega Python versus Gator.
Like, there's nothing terrible in that way in this movie. Now, is it great? Well, it's an Asylum movie, but it is very entertaining as an Asylum movie. This is like the type of movie that like when Asylum that could strike gold, like Sharknado struck gold. Like, it is what it is. But what it is such a ridiculous premise that I think people are going to like it. And this movie is definitely something. Though I have to look. It was really hard for me to find pictures of this movie. They didn't send a lot of promotional material.
Yeah, it's brand new, so.
But usually there's like promotional video stuff ready for reviews. People clearly just took screenshots.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show what I have so people can see some of this stuff. So on IMDb, this is literally the only picture, and that is a terrible picture of one of these sharks, because what the heck is that eyeball?
Looks like a zip.
But, sharks look fine. If you're used
Actually,
to stuff like Iron Sky, where like Nazis are on the moon, you'll be fine with this one.
the sharks actually look better than you would expect, honestly.
Yes. Some even have giant racks, and I don't know why. This is the one that was in the trailer. This is actually from the very beginning of the movie. Literally, they're escaping the pool. See, this is their base on the moon where there's lava. Why is there lava? I don't know. I wasn't aware the moon had a molten core.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up. I didn't think it did either. I thought the moon
And
was
then this is where the Russian shuttles crashed.
Yeah.
You can't really tell, but the movie looks fine. It's definitely filmed digitally. The actors look fine. There's none of them are like outright the worst actors ever. They're like TV actors. They're all fine.
I would venture to say that the acting in this movie is probably better than almost every other silent film we've watched. I would say that
on average, like if you go across the entire movie, yes, I will say it is better than all of them across the whole movie, because like even Gatoroid, we loved it, but there were the hicks.
Or like
every one of those guys with a gun, it's just like stop.
Avengers Grimm, right? Casper Van Dien did a fantastic job. Lou Ferrigno was himself. But like the rest of that acting was worse than the acting across the board in Shark Sighting. Like,
what? Yeah, and then people that had constant fart smells. So the acting is definitely better. The look is on par with their best of them. Clearly, it's what Tubi asked them to do.
Yeah. It's up there with Avengers Grimm, Sharknado, as far as look.
But the win for this one is the concept. This concept, like Avengers Grimm, is a winner. It's clearly not a mockbuster like they usually do.
Yeah.
And I think from what we've discovered, when they go more unique with their concepts and go more original, like Avengers Grimm, yes, is going off of Avengers, but it is also its own concept.
It's an original concept.
They work better.
For me, the things that I really enjoyed about Shark Side of the Moon is it has a very strong like 50s, 60s sci-fi feel to it. Like them being on the moon and they're perfectly fine because they're wearing a chainmail hat and they have breathing tubes shoved up their nose. Like, and they're talking without any issues. Like that's something that you would see in the old school they came from Planet X style movies, right? And I really appreciated that. It really had like a good callback to that. The story isn't like great, but it was definitely a coherent plot from beginning to end, unlike say Bigfoot or Battle Star Wars, right? The CGI was enjoyable. And
it starts well and ends well. Like it grabs you at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's never slow. It is never a slow movie. And it ends perfectly. Like perfectly as in like, oh, I'll watch another one of these.
The real big drawback on this movie is it does have a lot of blink and you'll miss it moments where something happens real quick. Because like Jeremiah just said, like it doesn't stop. The movie is action pretty much the whole time. So there's like a moment where you're just like, I look away and I look back, and now there's the shark queen falling. I have no idea what happened.
I wonder if some of those were done for commercial breaks.
Possibly.
Because Tubi doesn't do the same commercial breaks you have on TV. They're not as bad as like, I think YouTube's the worst one where it's like, oh look, yeah, mid sentence commercial. No.
Funimation, which is now,
and Voodoo also had terrible ones.
Funimation is the worst because if you don't pay for your Funimation account, it's like every 3 minutes there's a commercial, and it's garbage. But yeah, so there's a lot of blink and you'll miss it moments in Shark Side of the Moon. I did say the acting was really good. Some of the voice acting for the shark
It
was not great.
was like Russian dubbed.
Yeah, the shark
The voice
queen,
matching's not existing, but who cares?
the shark queen's voice has no inflection and does not change. It is
Well, she
always
is a shark.
that's fair,
It
but
doesn't have
it's
to be Bruce the shark from Finding Nemo.
Akula is also a shark, and she had some emotion in her voice.
Yes, but she's also a human.
Well, they're all also human. They're human shark hybrids. That's the whole
Okay,
plot.
she looks like a human.
So the fin.
She does not look like she's from Street Sharks.
With a really nice butt. Anyway,
Who knows? Maybe someone thinks Street Sharks have good butts. I don't know.
I guess so. So, Shark Side of the Moon. This movie is glorious. It is exactly, you see the trailer, and the trailer tells you exactly what you're in for. So if you see the trailer and you're like, this movie looks watchable, watch it. As far as where I would place it on our constantly morphing Asylum rating scale,
It's the best. It's the best.
I would still put Avengers Grimm and Avengers Time Wars above this film. I would put it as the third, in my opinion, the third movie of our Asylum flicks. Jeremiah, thoughts?
I put it as the best. So
You
I will say this. So this, yeah, I was never bored. This movie was directed by Campbell, who started his work doing special effects for Star Trek: The Motion Picture. He worked on Tron. He worked on The X-Files, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Children of Dune.
That explains why the special effects are not absolute garbage.
Yeah, it's weird. He did Children of Doom, but he's only directed 3 movies: Adventures of Aladdin, Planet Dune, which is the Asylum mockbuster of Dune, which he worked on Children of Dune, the miniseries, which Sci-Fi also did, which is an award-winning. Dune and Children of Dune were award-winning miniseries, like the top things that Sci-Fi ever did. He worked on special effects for Sharknado, like at least 3 or 4 of them. Avengers Grimm, he worked on special effects for. Z Nation, he was a supervisor for a lot of it. Which Z Nation is the TV series about zombies that Asylum does. It's probably their most respected thing they've done because it's a long running TV series.
More respected than Sharknado.
Respected, not entertained. But it's a TV series that went on for 5 seasons. I think that shows it's a lot easier to make a single movie than it is a whole TV series.
I don't know, man. The Simpsons is...
The other director has been known for, she also did Planet Dune with this guy, which makes me think Planet Dune might actually be okay. Because this same directing team, she's done stuff like Space Opera Society, but she also worked on compositing and effects for Avengers Grimm, Sharknado, and so on. So clearly a team that's come out of that group. The writers. Oh, yeah.
That would definitely explain the quality, because this is definitely a higher quality Asylum film by far.
Now, here is something that's weird, though.
For you viewers at home, we're not talking up this movie because I'm hoping to get a free poster. I want you to know how I actually feel about this movie. Although, if anyone from Asylum is watching, I want a free poster.
So the writer of this movie, one of the two, there's 2. One of her first movies she wrote the whole movie of, we just reviewed, Blood Lake, Attack of the Killer Lampreys. But she's also written Jurassic School, Mommy Would Never Hurt You, Tales of a Fifth Grade Robin Hood, The Christmas Sitters, Christmas in Vienna, which I want to say I might have seen. I don't want to know. Santa Claus, and this one. She was an assistant on a lot of these other movies. And then the other writer,
Robin Hood keeps popping up on my to be recommended list.
And then the other
has ruined my to be recommended list.
The other writer worked on Asylum stuff like San Andreas, Megaquake, and Apocalypse of Ice. He's been an actor. He was a KGB agent in this movie. I wasn't aware of any KGB agents in this movie.
Probably one of the people that dies in the opening would be my guess.
Okay. He was also in the Sharknado. It's About Time, which makes sense.
The best Sharknado.
And a lot of these people are next thing they're working on is some movie called Pinata.
Is that in the list of the five next Asylum films?
No, it's they're just working on it right now. But I'll say this movie I'd put as the best of the Asylum one so far. It's entertaining. It's the type of trash like if you like movies like Sharknado, like where if the concept.
For those of you that have seen my Sharknado tier video, you know I did not.
If the concept speaks to you, you're going to like this movie.
Absolutely.
If the concept does not speak to you, why would you do this to yourself?
Steer clear. You're not us. You're not a masochist who tortures themselves with terrible films. Unless you are, which.
But this is the type of movie that does speak to me and entertain me, and I would definitely if I saw this on a movie poster in a theater, I might actually walk in and go, "Oh, that sounds like I should watch it."
Yeah, that's how I felt about Avengers Grimm. Like if I walked into the local movie theater and there was a poster for Avengers Grimm, I would pay money to see.
I think though the fact that this movie has obviously significantly more money to it than that movie, I think that helps a lot. Like if Avengers Grimm had the money this one clearly has, I might have had a better opinion on it as compared to this. But it doesn't. But maybe we'll get another one and Tubi will give it money. But for now, Shark Side of the Moon is exactly what you think it should be. If you think it's something you want to see, it's exactly what I wanted it to be.
Same here.
It's a straight up brown arrow the whole way. Put it as like some shows do. It's so bad it's good, and it's the type of movie that you'd want to see Asylum do more of.
Yeah.
And it's not a $20,000 movie like that other one we saw was.
Like many of the ones we've seen. I believe that we did not picker wheel our last video because we knew that Shark Side of the Moon was going to be our next.
Correct.
So I believe we're due for the Wheel of Asylum.
Shark Side of the Moon wasn't even on that picker wheel because we didn't even know it existed when that wheel was being made.
Yep.
So
my hope for this role is Thor: God of Thunder. That's what I'm hoping for.
My hope is honestly I don't know. Six-headed shark attack. Okay, let's see. Let's see where it goes. Asylum's done a lot of shark movies.
Yeah, they have. We found out that Asylum does a shark movie every year for Shark Week, apparently.
At least one.
Everybody say it with me. Wheel of Asylum, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the movie that we shall burn. Mega Piranha. Well,
it's not a shark.
It's not a shark movie. I guess I got my wish. It's not a shark movie.
Mega Piranha.
Mega Piranha next week-ish on Welcome to the Asylum. Thanks for watching. Jeremiah, you want to parting words?
If you have any comments, leave a message for us. If you have any ideas, threats, concerns, rants, if you like Shark Side of the Moon, or didn't like Shark Side of the Moon, or don't care at all and just want to post a comment, do so, or hit the like button, and we will get to you next time with Mega Piranha.
We need you to feed the algorithm.
Feed her. Feed her.